Daf Tzadi Gimel Amud Aleph will begin Tzadi Beis Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. We're in the middle of the sugya Isaac with the issue of the machlokes, the three-way machlokes, whether if a person does a malacha jointly with other people. So we learned that if it's a case where ze yochel v'ze yochel, where both people could do it on their own, they could both carrying out a small item. They can both do it on their own, but they happen to do it together. So in such a case, Rameir says you're chayiv. Rameir says you're chayiv in such a case. They can both do it on their own, so neither one is contributing to the other one. Rameir says they're chayiv, but Rav Yehuda and Rav Shimon say you're potter. So that's in the case when they can both do it. In the case when they can both do it, that's the way the machlokes is. But if it's ze eina yochel v'ze eina yochel, if neither of them can do it on their own, so they are therefore both contributing to the malacha, Rav Yehuda and Rameir machayiv. Rameir says you're chayiv as well, but Rav Yehuda in this case is maskim that you are chayiv, but Rav Shimon is poiter. But ze yochel v'ze eina yochel, if one can and the other cannot, devra kol chayiv, and we'll see in the Gemara which one is the one that's chayiv. So, back to the Gemara, 4 lines from the bottom. How do we know this? Why do we see a patur that if people do a malacha jointly, that they're potter? Well, how do we know that if a person does it together with somebody else, that he's potter? The Tana Rabbanan, ba'asoisa, the pasuk says, ba'asoisa, that a person does something b'shaygei, and ba'asoisa, and it says ba'asoisa, and he does it. So the pasuk says, "Nefesh achas v'im nefesh achas techta b'shkaga." If a person does a nevera b'shkaga from the amaretz, ba'asoisa achas mitzvah Hashem asher lo yisasana. So what we have over here, it says nefesh achas. If one person techta b'shkaga me'am haaretz ba'asoisa achas. So we have all of these miyutim. So the question is, how do we darshan it? So the Gemara says, "Ba'asoisa ha'oisa es kula v'lo ha'oisa es mixos ha'oisa." He does it entirely and not part of it. Ketzad shnaim sheyu oichsim b'malgez. If we have 2 people that were holding onto a pitchfork, v'lo igzim, and they were piling up things with the pitchfork, so they were being Isaac in the malach of ma'amir, b'karkar v'shoiftim, or if it's a case where it's a karkar and they were shoiftim, so that's the rod that's used to straighten out the threads of the chassis. So they were Isaac in the karkar v'shoiftim, and they did it together. Or they bakulma sukaisim, or with a quill and they were writing together. Bekona, or with a reed v'haitzil l'shusarabim, and they carry it out l'shusarabim. You might think they would be chayiv in such a case. Only if they do it entirely, not if they do it together. So if they do it together jointly, they're potter. But if it's an eagle, a round, big, heavy cake of the pressed dates, so this is a heavy item. And it's rather pressed figs. It's the eagle shel devela, that it's a round, heavy cake of the pressed figs. Now this is something that they could not carry on their own. They needed both of them. So this is a case over here of za'ena yochel, za'ena yochel. So be eagle shel devela v'haitzil l'shusarabim, or b'kaira if it's a heavy beam and they took it out to the shusarabim. Rav Yehuda Aimer. If one could not take it on his own and they did it jointly together, then chayavim v'mlapaturim. So here, Rav Yehuda says over here, he's maida that is za'ena yochel, that in such a case that we say that they're chayavim. If it's not that way, if they could take it on their own, Rav Yehuda says you're potter. Rav Shimon, and Rav Shimon says no. Even in such a case where zeina yochel, they're also potter. Kach nemar ba'asoisa yochel she'asa chayev shnaim she'asa p'turim. It's only if one person does the malacha, he has to do it completely, not if 2 people do it together. So, how do we understand this 3-way machlokes? The pasuk says, "Im nefesh achas tegel v'techta b'shgaga me'am haaretz v'asoisa rishim sovet los miyutiksi." He says we can derive from this pasuk three miyutim, three exclusions. Nefesh is in the singular, so one person who does the malacha, one person who's techta, he does the malacha. Nefesh techta. Achas, it also says achas, one person does the malacha. Achas techta, ba'asoisa techta, and ba'asoisa when he does it completely. So the first miyut is the simplest of the cases, where they're not even doing the complete malacha. If this one is aiker, one person does the akira, he picks it up, and the other person picks it down. So neither of them have done a complete malacha. So the first miyut is to be mamayet, the simplest of the cases, where neither of them is doing a complete malacha. One does one half, and the other one does the other half. This one does the akira, this does the hanacha. That's the first level of miyut. The second level of miyut is yochal, where they can both do it on their own, and therefore neither one of them is really contributing. So therefore we say you're also potter in that case, because neither one is considered really doing the malacha, because they can do it on their own. The help of the other person is not needed. And the third miyut is yochal. And the third is where neither of them can do it on their own, and you might say therefore in this case that they're both contributing and they're both doing the malacha. Rav Shimon says the third miyut is to be ma'it even this case. That's the shita of Rav Shimon. We have three miyutim, so we're ma'it all of these cases. Rav Yehuda Rav Yehuda says yes, one miyut is the most partial of the case. Each one is doing only half the malacha. And the other one is to be mayat zeyachal v'zeyachal, and therefore neither of one is really contributing. That's the second level of miyut. However, the third level of miyut that Rav Shimon is mayat, when he says zeyna yochal v'zeyna yochal, over here Rav Yehuda doesn't agree with that. He says v'chad, he agrees that there's a third miyut, but v'chad limute yochal shasah by rois bezdin. He said the third miyut is to be mayat, not this case at all. It's to be mayat a case where a person did it based on a faulty psak of bezdin. Bezdin, for instance, told him that this is chaylev is mutter, it's mutter to eat this chaylev. They made a mistake, and he acted on what bezdin told him, on the psak of bezdin. In such a case, he's potter from a chatas. That's not considered in that case that he is really doing it. It's not considered ba'asoisa. It's not considered that he did it because he was acting on what bezdin told him to do. So therefore, it's mimayit echatas in such a case. So therefore, the third, they both agree that there are three miyutim, but Rav Shimon says the third miyut is for the case of Hilchos Shabbos, ze'ena yochal, ze'ena yochal, or in a malacha, in generally in an act of Isser, that ze'ena yochal, ze'ena yochal. And that's Rav Shimon. Rav Yehuda says that no, it's not dealing with people doing the Isser jointly. What it's dealing with is a person doing it, singular person doing it, based on a mistake, a faulty psak in bezdin. Rav Shimon Yochel by Roz Bezdin Chayv, he said there's no patur in such a case. He holds your Chayv. So based on their shitas of Yochel Shasah by Roz Bezdin, the question is the third miyut for Ze'ena Yochel Ze'ena Yochel or Yochel Shasah by Roz Bezdin. Now Rameir argues on the basic premise. He says that you don't have three miyutim in this pasuk. Rameir miksiv nefesh techta, achas techta, vasaisa techta, trei miyut ksiva. Nefesh achas is considered one miyut. So you only have two miyutim. So chad limut is oiker v'zemeniach. One is oiker v'zemeniach, where each one is only doing half of it. The chad limut yochid shasah baroz bezdin. And the other one is that yochid shasah baroz bezdin. And in this one, he agrees to Rav Yehuda that he's potter in such a case. Memela, you only have, for the people doing it jointly, you only have one miyut. Oiker v'zemeniach. But whether it's Zeh Yochel, Zeh Yochel, or Zeh Eina Yochel, Zeh Eina Yochel, you have no miyut. Now, as far as Zeh Yochel, Zeh Eina Yochel, the more we'll discuss that. That's based on a svara why we're memayit in such a case, why we are mechayv rather in that case. Omer Mar Zeh Yochel v'Zeh Eina Yochel Divra Kol Chayev. So the case of Zeh Yochel v'Zeh, everyone agrees they're Chayev. Haminayu Mechayev. Who's Chayev? The one that can do it, or the one that can't do it? Omer Rav Chisda Zeh Sheyochel. The one who's Chayev is the one that can do it. Because the one who cannot do it, he's not doing anything. He can't do it on his own. So you have two people. One person is a strong person. He can carry out the item on his own. So the other person, he is not really doing anything. As we'll see in a moment, he's helping, he's Messiah, but that just makes it easier or harder for the person carrying. But in terms of completing the action being done, he's not really doing anything. Now, one who can't do it, so he can't do it on his own, so we can't consider him being the one who is doing the malacha. Amarli Rav Amnuna, what do you mean, my Dovid? Amarli Amnuna, the Messiah Ba'adeh, he says he's helping him. So he's helping him, so therefore he is considered like he's doing something. Amarli Messiah ain't boy mamish, but he answered back, Rav Chisda said Messiah is only helping, ain't boy mamish. We disregard that. That is not considered like he is doing the action. So her is a pella, Rav Amnuna, the Messiah, he's helping. Okay, granted he's helping, but why should that be considered like he is the one that's doing it? Why should we say that he's the one that's chayiv just because he's helping? So Rav Chisda answers Messiah and boy mamish. We disregard it. It's not significant. But what's Rav Hamnuna's? What's his svara? Yes, he's helping. He helps. And he holds that he's yesh boy mamish. But why should he be the one that is chayiv and the other one potter? So Ramban explains, because if we look at it from the perspective of their efforts, the one who ain't a yochal, he's doing the maximum that he could. The one that's yochal, he's not doing the maximum that he could, because on his own he could carry it without any assistance whatsoever. Now the action is being done. The item is being carried. The malacha is being done. So perhaps we'll say that the one who is contributing something and is putting his full force into it, perhaps he should be the one that's chayiv. And Rav Chisda answers, Messiah ain't boy mamish. We disregard it. I'll prove to you that it's correct. So the zav, if a person is a zav, he is metama b'medras. If he rests on something, if he puts his weight on something, the item that bears his weight, that carries his weight, becomes tummy. So if if there are 4 talis under the bedpost, they're tmeas. Because they can't stand on 3 posts. So the 4 posts are needed. A bed, it cannot support something based on with only 3 legs. It needs all 4 legs. So we consider that all 4 legs are supporting the zav. So therefore, what he sits on now is now medras, it's supporting his weight. So this is l'chayra a case of ze eina yochel v'ze eina yochel. No one of the bedposts can hold up the zav on their own. All 4 of the legs, all 4 of the posts are needed to hold up the bed and hold up the zav. So that's a case of ze eina yochel v'ze eina yochel. And therefore, in such a case, so it says it's Tomei. This is the Shita of Rav Yehuda. Rav Shimon Mitayr. But Rav Shimon is Mitayr. Rav Shimon L'Shita that Zeina Yochal v'Zeina Yochal. We don't consider it like any Banu is doing the Malacha. Just like L'Gabi Shabbos, we say Zeina Yochal v'Zeina Yochal, that they're potter. No one of them is considered doing the Malacha. Here also, no one of them, neither of them, not one of them is considered to doing the supporting, to be the one supporting the zav. If he was the zav was riding on a behema v'dal talisis tachas ragle behema, and in this case, if you have the 4 talisis under the ragle behema tahiris, they are considered tahar. Why? The legs of the horse, similar to the bed, are supporting to the zav, so that should be considered to be the medras. No, it's taharis mipnei sheyachol l'lamad al gimel, because a horse does not need all 4 legs. It can stand on 3. Well, why is that so? Yes, it's true that it doesn't need all 4. But however, nevertheless, but they're all contributing to supporting the Zav, so they all should be considered to be Misayeh. So doesn't that show you Lav Mishum Damrina Misayeh Ein Boy Mamish? Doesn't that show you this concept that they're all contributing, they're all helping, but they're not needed. It's not necessary. So doesn't that show you Misayeh Ein Boy Mamish? What's your raya? No. Maybe you don't have a raya here that Misayeh Ein Boy Mamish. Maybe I'll tell you Misayeh Yesh Boy Mamish. Maybe the point over here is that sometimes the horse only stands on 3 legs, and the 4th leg isn't doing anything. Maybe if they're standing on 4 legs, each one contributes something. It's Misayeh Yesh Boy Mamish, the Masechet over here, because sometimes it stands on 3 legs, and the 4th leg may not have supported it at all, and so that's why it's Tohar, because it may have not done nothing at all. In fact, the Gemara, well, what do you mean? But even if it does, but it's a suffix. Sometimes it'll lift up 1 leg, sometimes the other leg. So we won't know, even if it does only stand on 3, but it's a suffix. It's a suffix. Which one is the one that's doing nothing? If Misayeh Yesh Boy Mamish, the 3 legs all would be considered Misayeh Yesh Boy Mamish, and they all would be Tomei. The 4th one would be Tor, according to your reasoning. But since it's a suffix, we shouldn't say it's all Torah, we should say it's all Tomei, like we see in the following case. So Lahavik Zav Misapech, it should be like the Zav who's rolling, which we say, Mi Loichan, didn't we learn Zav Shayamut al He Savsolim, if a Zav was lying on 5 benches, Oyal He Pundois, or on 5 money bells, La Orkan Tzmei, if he's lying on lengthwise, it's Tomei. Then he's Tomei because each one would support the full length, the full weight of the Zav. The Orkan, they're Tmeim, because since it's length, it's in the length, then each one would support the full weight of the Zav if he was lying on them. And sometimes he rolls from one to the other, so each one would be then supporting his full weight, so therefore they are Tameas. L'rochban, if it's widthwise, so if it's widthwise, then none of them are supporting the full weight. If it's lengthwise, so if he lies on it lengthwise, the one that he lies straight on is supporting the full weight. So that's Medras, it's Tomei. Now, sometimes he'll roll from one to the other, and the other one will support the full weight. So each one is Tomei. If it's widthwise, each one is only supporting a little bit of his weight. If he lies on it widthwise, each one of the posts is only supporting a portion of it, so then he would be considered to be, if it's width, then he's Tor. Yoshin, but if he's sleeping and it's Sofek Mishapech Aleim Tmeim. But if he's sleeping, then even if it's widthwise, we're concerned that he might roll over and turn into the other direction and lie on them lengthwise, and then they're Tmeim. So you see, from a suffix, it's a suffix if it would be on one or the other, we would say from suffix is Tomei. And so therefore, in the case of the horse, the reason that we're matayired is can't be because of suffix, because of its suffix would be matame. Elamai must be misayeh and boy mamish. So the Mora will continue on the next Omed to being further rayas to this concept of misayeh and boy mamish.